Welcome into Locked On Phillies. The Phils swept the Marlins in Florida for the first time since 2010. The first half is over. We'll recap where the Phillies stand and a preview of tonight's home run derby featuring one Kyle Schwarber. All of that on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right. It's your boy CT, Connor Thomas. I always open the same way, so I'm switching it up a little bit. I'm your host of Locked On Phillies, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode, let me tell you who it's brought to you by Blue Nile. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile anniversary sale. You can save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. So shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. Now, the Philadelphia Phillies just got done with their final series of the first half of the season, or the pre-All-Star break half of the season, whatever you want to call it. And as you can see, Mr. Broom back there on the YouTube, Mr. Broom's with me because they just swept out the Marlins in Miami for the first time since 2010. That's incredible. You're telling me it's been 12 years since the Philadelphia Phillies have swept the Marlins in Miami? That'll show you what kind of trouble this franchise has had with a Marlins team that frankly hasn't been all that good since 2010. But hey, this year, this Phillies team feels different. They were on a 4-game losing streak. They switched that around and turned that into a 3-game winning streak to finish out the first half. And it gets easier from here. They play the Cubs. They play the Nationals a bunch. We'll talk about that a little bit when we jump into our recap of where the Philadelphia Phillies stand following their first half of play. But let's get into yesterday's game that gave the Phillies the series sweep over the Fish. And as we always start with scoring plays, not a lot to discuss here in a 4-0 game. All of the runs for the Philadelphia Phillies were scored in the top of the fourth off of Trevor Rogers, who's been having a rough year down there for the Miami Marlins. Alec Bohm started off with a double to deep center field, scoring JT Realmuto. Then Matt Vierling comes up and doubles to left, scoring Alec Bohm, trading places with him there. Next thing you know, Jairo Munoz comes in and hits a 386-foot home run to left. Not a complete bomb, but one that had enough to get out. Scored himself, scored Matt Vierling, and it is 4-0 in a barrage in the fourth inning. And that's all the scoring there was. There's no other scoring plays to talk about because the Philadelphia Phillies went shut out in the game, and the Philadelphia Phillies were shut out outside of just that top of the fourth inning there. A great pitching performance by Aaron Nola in this one. He went 8 1/3, made an attempt at trying to get the complete game shutout, but just couldn't get there. He did strike out 10. And as far as walks are concerned, well, he was pretty dominant. He only had 1 walk on the day. It adds to his major league leading strikeout to walk ratio. He's the best in baseball, and somehow not at the All-Star game. Somehow Zach Wheeler not at the All-Star game, which will take place tomorrow. We'll have a preview of that game on tomorrow's Locked On Phillies. But Jose Alvarado came in 2/3 of an inning pitch, no earned runs, 1 strikeout for him, and a nice outing with no hits or no walks given up. Worked out of a jam that Aaron Nola kind of got the team in the ninth. There was never too much worry about the game being in jeopardy, but nice work by Jose Alvarado to keep the combined shutout together. But really, the credit goes to Aaron Nola, who 4-hit the Miami Marlins through 8 1/3 innings. Trevor Rogers' line as the losing pitcher was 6 innings even, 7 hits giving up, 4 runs, 4 earned, all in that fourth inning. So 4's going wild there. 4 strikeouts as well, and 1 home run given up that one to Jairo Munoz. And then a couple of bullpen arms came in and 1 hit the Phillies from the 7th inning on. Didn't really matter, though. Phillies didn't need to score again. They took care of business, and they swept the Marlins out of their home park leading into the All-Star break. You just absolutely love to see it. This series was great. The 10-0 win on Saturday was awesome. The 4-0 win on Sunday was awesome. And this team's pitching staff, talking about the Philadelphia Phillies, has been incredible. I'm just going to go to their schedule real quick so we can read you some of the most recent results, and you can see what this pitching staff in total has been doing. Great starting pitching, great bullpen pitching, and listen to how they've rounded out the back part of the schedule. 4-0 win. 10-0 win. 2-1 win. Now, that 4-game losing stretch was not good. They gave up 8, 4, 6, and 4, respectively, in those 4 games, 2 to Toronto, 2 to St. Louis. But prior to that, 1-0 shutout win, 2-0 shutout win, 5-3 win. Only gave up 3 runs in a loss. 11-0 shutout win, 4-0 shutout win. Let's just count that up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shutouts in their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games. So over the last, basically 2 weeks of games, almost every other game has been a shutout for the Philadelphia Phillies in their favor. That's incredible. Could you imagine if I had told you that with where this bullpen was at, say in early June and late April, May? It's incredible the turnaround they've made. It's incredible what Rob Thompson has done with this team. It's incredible what the offense has done without Bryce Harper, without Gene Segura, at points without Alec Boehm, on a road trip without, well, they didn't do much on the road trip without JT Realmuto, but with Nick Castellanos not really contributing. This offense has been incredibly talented. We're going to talk later about Kyle Schwarber, who has become the catalyst for this team without Bryce Harper out, as we preview his odds in the home run derby tonight. And I got some interesting odds on that we'll run through, but just incredible work by the Philadelphia Phillies down the stretch. And it's got them in a great spot heading into the All-Star break. That's going to be the most content we talk about today, is going to be the breakdown of that first half and where they stand now, because they're in great shape with the schedule. They're in great shape with the standings. And if you had told me how they would have gotten here, no Bryce Harper, no Gene Segura, Joe Girardi getting fired, going down so early record-wise in the season, and games-wise in the division, to come back to where they are now. Still pretty far out of the division, but right there with the wild card race, I would have said you were crazy. There's no way this season's going to work out the way it does. But hey, Philadelphia Phillies baseball, it's absolutely crazy. And one of the days this week, just to give you a preview, we're going to do an episode that is entirely the top 10 moments of the first half. And we'll get into that. That'll be a fun little exercise, fun sideshow as we get into All-Star week, All-Star off week, whatever you want to call it. But just to recap, that Marlins series was fun. It was a dominant performance by the Phillies against a team that was pretty hot, and the Marlins is streaking, and it was just a clear indicator that this team is in a different league than some of those middling teams that are trying to work their way into the wild card conversation. This should be a playoff team, and they'll have to finish some work to do it, but right now they look every bit like a team that's going to find their way in, at least to me. Maybe you disagree. Maybe they disagree, and we'll see as the second half goes on. But that's how I feel right now, and this series was a great backup of my feelings. Now, coming up, like I said, we're going to take stock in where the Phillies stand right now and how that first half went. We'll discuss all of that in the next segment of Locked On Phillies. All right, time to tell you more about our title sponsor, Blue Nile. Maybe you're ready to pop the question, or maybe you're just celebrating a unique milestone moment. You can find jewelry as unique as that moment and unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Now, Blue Nile's got simple online tools that you can choose the diamond shape, size, setting, all of that stuff that makes a diamond one of a kind and special to her. If you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't know what type of jewelry you're trying to choose, maybe you're looking for a present, not an engagement ring, like a different kind of ring, a necklace, a bracelet, some nice earrings. Well, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7. You can talk to them over the phone, talk to them through a chat, and they can help you find a memorable gift at every budget. So you can make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now, I told you about it in the open shortly. It's the Blue Nile anniversary sale. You can save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Unbelievable deals there. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. So shop stress-free and find your forever piece at BlueNile.com. All right, it's time to take stock in where the Phillies stand now that the first half is over and we are officially into the All-Star break. But first, I want to tell you something about going on Locked On NFL podcast. Which NFL stars move the betting line the most? Starting July 18th, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers at BetOnline. Available July 18th on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. If you like the Birds, if you're an Eagles fan like me, you can go ahead and check that out. Maybe you root for a different team. You're a Phillies fan, but for whatever reason, maybe you're a Steelers fan. Maybe you're one of those weird North Jersey Giants fans that root for the Phillies or something. I don't know who you root for. But either way, they're going to break down the top 50 NFL players. Maybe you're just a fantasy football player and you want to figure out who's some good value there. Check that out over at their YouTube page. That's available also wherever you get your podcasts. So the Phillies currently head into the All-Star break with a nice record of 49-43, a .533 winning percentage. Now, where does that put them as far as the National League's concerned? Well, let's take a look real quick. Of course, they trail two teams in their division, but in the National League, the Phillies have what we would call the sixth best record, even though they're only a .001% winning percentage over the St. Louis Cardinals because of the differential in games played. The Phillies do have the tiebreaker in that one, and because they played less games than the St. Louis Cardinals, well, what that means is the Phillies have a higher winning percentage in those games. It'll all even out. As far as run differential in the National League, it's the Dodgers with 169, the Mets 83, the Braves plus 72, and then it's your Philadelphia Phillies with the Cardinals at plus 65, and then the Phillies at plus 62. So the fifth best run differential in the National League. Like, they're hanging right around that fifth or sixth spot, which is perfect because three teams get in based on winning their division. Three teams get in based on the wild card. And you look over at the American League, a little bit higher run differentials for the top teams, the Yankees and Astros. Yankees are almost at plus 200. The Astros are at plus 98. But no other team in the American League is higher than 36 on the positive side, which is the Seattle Mariners. So you look at that. Well, I mean, the Phillies, by comparison, a good team, a really good team, really strong offensively. Now, they're 12 games back of the Los Angeles Dodgers for the lead in the National League. That's not a realistic makeup point. The Dodgers are clearly a better team than the Philadelphia Phillies. Doesn't mean the Phillies can't beat them in a playoff matchup, but they won't catch them in the regular season. In division, the Phillies are 8.5 games back on the New York Mets, who hold a 58-35 record. The Braves are sitting at 56-38, only 2.5 games back of the Mets in the NL East. So the Braves could make a push. They certainly could. Only 2.5 games back in late July, or mid-July even, if you want to call it that, the 18th today. Yeah, that's make-upable. I'm making uppable words, but that is a make-upable distance for the Braves. The Phillies probably not looking at the division, but hey, who knows? If the Mets and Braves beat up on each other, the Phillies take advantage of some games against the Marlins and the Nationals, who are both under 500. The Marlins 14 games back in the division. The Nationals a whopping 27.5 games back. Good for the second biggest deficit in baseball, trailing only the Oakland Athletics, who are 28 games back out in the AL West. Well, hey, maybe the Phillies can get in that conversation, but where we're really looking is the wild card. And when you take a look at the National League wild card race, the Braves are 6 games up in that first wild card spot. The Padres are 2 games up in that second wild card spot. And at the All-Star break, your final wild card team, if the season ended today, would be your Philadelphia Phillies. Now, the Giants are only a half game back of them. The Cardinals are only a tiebreaker game back of them and .001 percentage points behind them. So it's still very tight. Now, there's a drop-off that probably won't have to worry about between the Giants and the next team, which is the Miami Marlins, who the Phillies just swept. They're 5.5 games back. The Rockies then 6.5, and Diamondbacks 9. And when you hear those names, those are not teams that are going to really compete. But you look at the bottom of the division, or rather the league. And you see the Chicago Cubs, Cincinnati Reds, Washington Nationals, all teams that the Philadelphia Phillies will play against. The Pittsburgh Pirates, a couple games there, some more games against the Marlins. A lot of bottom of the half leagues. Bottom half of the league. I knew I said that weird. Teams that the Phillies will play coming up. So an opportunity there. Really, they've just put themselves in prime position at 49 and 43 to be where they need to be to make a run at this on the backstretch. And they haven't had Bryce Harper for a month. They haven't had Gene Segura for like 2 months. They haven't had Ranger Suarez for a little bit. They still don't have Zach Eflin, something we're going to discuss. I know about the Zach Eflin news with the injury. We'll talk about that also this week in that whole All-Star game dead zone. We'll have a trade deadline, a little bit of an early preview of that when we discuss that in an episode. But the Phils are in great shape. I love where they're at. I love what they've done. I love what Rob Thompson has done with this team. I love what the bullpen has become. I love what the top end of the starting rotation, talking about Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, have been this year. Love what Kyle Schwarber and this offense has produced. Really, there's a couple individual points of worry. Zach Eflin, Nick Castellanos, JT Realmuto, whoever ends up playing second base before Gene Segura gets back, center field position. Yeah, there's a couple of issues there, but largely this team, you got to be happy with where they're at. And just record-wise, I told you already, not the narrative, because the narrative's crazy that they're still where they are, losing the players the way they did, losing games early the way they did. But if you told me this would be their record, these would be the standings, I would say, okay, I'll take that 10 times out of 10 at the All-Star break, and we'll give them a good chance down the stretch here. So that's where the Phillies stand. A little bit of days off before they get back into action. Philadelphia Phillies will not play until, I believe Friday is when they open the second half against the Cubs on July 22nd, which is indeed the case. So July 22nd, we're back at Citizens Bank Park with the Philadelphia Phillies home to start the second half. But until then, we're just hanging out, taking stock in what they've done. Some good stuff. Now, tonight is one of my favorite events of All-Star Weekend or week or whatever you want to call it, the Home Run Derby. Kyle Schwarber's in it. I'll run you through some odds as far as Kyle Schwarber's chance to win and tell you what I think about his chances in a bracket that has Pete Alonso, that has Ronald Acuna, that has Juan Soto. A lot of talented hitters in the National League East are going to be on display tonight. Plenty of great stuff to get into as we wrap up today's Locked On Phillies. Speaking of odds, betonline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs. I keep doing that, including this year's MLB baseball run to the playoffs. We're at the All-Star break. A lot of looks at who's going to be in, who's going to be out, and some tough calls to be made. You can make some money there. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. And shout out BetOnline for giving us some great odds on the Home Run Derby tonight. Kyle Schwarber is, of course, where we're going to be looking when it comes to the Home Run Derby, us being Phillies fans, of course, you and I, me and you. If you're not a Phillies fan listening to this, well, let me tell you why your eyes should be on Kyle Schwarber to make some money in this one. First of all, in the first round matchups, Kyle Schwarber, the 2 seed, faces off against Albert Pujols, who is listed as the 7 seed. Now, Schwarber has a minus 300 chance to beat Albert Pujols. Albert Pujols plus 225. That's the best odds for any first round matchup in favor of the favorite. Even Pete Alonso, who's won back-to-back Home Run Derby championships, is only a minus 185 favorite. Minus 180 for Juan Soto over Jose Ramirez. Minus 130 for Julio Rodriguez over Corey Seager. So Schwarber has the best chance to win. It's actually kind of nice how it matches up because I believe the way that they set it out was the player with the most home runs or rather, well, the way they did it, it's not just the most home runs, but I guess Pete Alonso got top billing because he's a back-to-back champion. So the returning champion gets the 1 seed, and then you go most home runs, the least home runs, the seed the rest out. Kyle Schwarber actually got lucky because Albert Pujols is in, but Ronald Acuna Jr. was hurt for a lot of the year, so his numbers are decreased. So Schwarber gets the easiest matchup in the first round. Love Kyle Schwarber to beat Albert Pujols in the first round. Love Kyle Schwarber to go to the championship. Now, let's look at some of those odds. The most home runs in the first round. Pete Alonso is your odds-on favorite at plus 325. Ronald Acuna plus 350. Kyle Schwarber is actually plus 600, 6-1 odds to have the most home runs in the first round. So they're not really thinking he hits that many, but he probably doesn't have to hit that many to beat Albert Pujols. So that could lead to him being rested when it comes to the later matchups. He'll have a semifinals matchup, and then there's the finals. The most likely matchup in the finals, according to these odds from BetOnline, is Kyle Schwarber versus Pete Alonso. Kyle Schwarber versus Ronald Acuna is the third most likely. Kyle Schwarber versus Corey Seager is the fourth most likely. And Kyle Schwarber versus Julio Rodriguez is the fifth most likely. So of those six most likely, the top 6 options, 4 of them include Kyle Schwarber. It looks like people are thinking that Schwarber is going to come out of that side of the bracket, which is the easier side. Now, it's more likely than not that Pete Alonso beats Kyle Schwarber, according to the results. But Kyle Schwarber beating Pete Alonso is the second most likely outcome based on the odds. He's the second best option in this home run derby, and you should see some fireworks out of him. I don't know how he's going to do. I talked about it in a national radio spot I did yesterday where I said I think the fact that he doesn't really swing all that violently, his swing, sometimes he looks like he just flicks his wrist at the ball and it goes 400. That strength will help him get away with not having to swing as hard, which allows him to be less fatigued in the later rounds. I think that'll certainly help. And his experience having done this before definitely helps. He lost to Bryce Harper in the championship in the All-Star game in Washington a couple years back. But I think Kyle Schwarber's got a real shot at this. And boy, would I love to see him just upstage Pete Alonso and take care of business out there in LA and take home a trophy for the Philadelphia Phillies. That would just be the piece de resistance. Taking down a Mets hitter on the national stage would be awesome. So we don't like the Mets. In fact, I would say we hate the Mets and do not like Pete Alonso. Actually, I do kind of like Pete Alonso. Seems like a good dude, and I love the way he plays the game, but not going to be rooting for him tonight. Tonight, we're firmly on Kyle Schwarber, and hopefully it's a fun display that ends up with him lifting the trophy. We'll talk about it tomorrow, but also on tomorrow's episode, as I wrap up today's Locked On Phillies, we're going to discuss, the top moments going on in the first half for the Philadelphia Phillies. It'll be a fun series, or actually that'll be Wednesdays. Tomorrow will be a preview of the All-Star game, which will be tomorrow night. I'm getting my days mixed up. So an All-Star game preview, a home run derby recap, and a little bit more fun Phillies talk, as always, on tomorrow's Locked On Phillies. But I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB Prospects. Lindsey Crosby is going deep on the stars tomorrow. He knows all the guys. The draft just happened. If you want to find out who got great draft picks, who didn't do exactly what Lindsey thought they were going to do, check out Locked On MLB Prospects. It's free wherever you get your podcasts. That's all I've got for you for today's Locked On Phillies, and I will preview the All-Star game tomorrow.